I never imagined I'd share this story with anyone, but after what happened last fall, I can no longer keep it to myself. What I'm about to share has changed everything I thought I knew about the world, about motherhood, and about healing. If you think you know what desperation looks like, think again. The cabin I rented was 48 kilometers from any town worth mentioning, deep within the old-growth forests of the Pacific Northwest. After my divorce last spring, I needed a place far away from everything and everyone, somewhere I could scream as loud as I wanted, and the only sound I'd hear in return was the wind rustling through the trees. People kept asking why I'd want to isolate myself so completely. They didn't understand that after 23 years of marriage, after watching the person I trusted most shatter my life piece by piece, sometimes the only way to heal is through absolute solitude. The cabin was equipped with basic amenities, solar power, a wood stove, and a well perfect for someone wanting to disappear for a while. I had been a veterinary assistant for 15 years before my ex convinced me to quit and focus on the family. Back then, I still believed in the promises he made. Yet, my medical knowledge never left me, even after years away from the clinic. You never forget how to diagnose symptoms or treat infections, just like you never forget how to ride a bike. The first few months were exactly what I needed. I spent my days hiking, reading, and gradually recovering. The isolation felt healing, not lonely. I spoke to my sister once a week over satellite phone, but otherwise I was completely cut off from the world. My nearest neighbor was 15 miles away, and I had never met them. By October, I was settled into the routine. I chopped wood in the mornings, hiked in the afternoons, and spent evenings by the fire reading. The weather turned colder, and I could sense winter coming, not just from the changing light, but from the way the animals started behaving differently. Deer began to move through the land more frequently, and I spotted a black bear twice, though both times it kept its distance. October 17th started like any other day. I spent the afternoon chopping wood, and just as I was about to go to bed, the temperature suddenly dropped. By 8 p.m., I had a fire going and was halfway through a mystery novel when I heard the first sound: scratching, scratching, scratching. The sound was rhythmic, steady, coming from the front door. My first thought was raccoons. They get more aggressive as winter approaches, and I had to be extra careful with my trash. Occasionally, they'd scratch at the door if they smelled food inside. The scratching stopped for a moment, then started again. But this time, it was different. It was more urgent, more desperate. Still, I figured it must be an animal. Maybe a bear had caught a whiff of the leftover soup I'd made for dinner. I grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the door, ready to bang on it from the inside to scare whatever it was off. But as I got closer, I heard something that made me freeze. It was crying. This wasn't the sound of any animal I knew. It was different, desperate, almost human-like, but not quite. The scratching resumed, followed by a low whimper. Whatever was outside wasn't looking for food. It was begging for help. I stood at the door. It felt like an hour, though it was probably just a few minutes. My hand hovered over the door latch. Instinct told me not to open it. I was a woman alone in the middle of nowhere. Anything could be waiting for me outside. But the crying didn't stop. It was the sound of a creature in extreme pain. A creature desperately needing help. Finally, I turned the lock and cracked the door open. The first thing I saw were the eyes. Large, black, intelligent eyes reflecting my flashlight. They were about 15 centimeters above mine, which meant they were at least 2.1 meters off the ground. For a moment, I thought I was seeing a person, but as the light adjusted and I could see more clearly, I realized I was looking at something unbelievable: a Bigfoot. The creature stood over 8 feet tall, covered from head to toe in dark brownish-red hair. Its face was more human-like than ape-like, but still unmistakably different. Its shoulders were broader than any human's, its arms longer, its hands bigger, but it was the eyes that held me at the door. They were full of intelligence and a somberness I recognized immediately. The Bigfoot was cradling something in its arms, holding it gently. At first, I thought it was a bundle of fur or clothes, but then I saw tiny arms and legs, a small face. It was a baby, but not a human baby. A tiny newborn version of whatever the Bigfoot was, the mother. Clearly, the Bigfoot looked directly at me and made a soft sound, almost like a whimper. She then tilted the baby forward, as if offering it to me. Even in the dim light, something felt wrong. The baby moved abnormally. Its breathing was shallow and rapid. And even from a few steps away, I could feel the intense heat radiating off it. The Bigfoot mother looked from the baby to me, then back again, making soft sounds that needed no translation. She was asking for my help. My mind was spinning. This couldn't be happening. Bigfoot didn't exist. And yet, here was one standing at my doorstep, begging me to save her dying child. Every rational part of me screamed to slam the door and hide until this hallucination passed. But I looked at the baby's swollen, unmoving body, its shallow, rattling breaths, and something deeper than reason took over. It was the same instinct that had made me a skilled veterinary assistant. When something is about to die in front of you, you don't stop to question it. You try to save it. I stepped back and opened the door wider, signaling her to come in. She hesitated for a moment, then carefully stepped through the door, even crouching to fit through the frame. She was huge, but moved with surprising gentleness, especially when holding the baby. Each step was calculated to avoid jarring the child. Once inside, she looked around my small cabin with uncertainty. I pointed to the couch near the fire, where the light was better and the warmth would be soothing. She gently walked over, knelt beside it, and laid the baby down on the cushions. In the flickering firelight, I could see just how frail it was. It couldn't have been much older than a human infant, but its features clearly mirrored its mother's. Its breathing was labored and wheezy, and it was so hot it seemed to be burning up. What worried me most were the areas on its arms and chest that looked like infected wounds, red, swollen, and clearly painful. The Bigfoot mother sat back on her heels and watched me closely as I approached the couch. She made a soft sound, almost as if she were trying to explain what was happening, though I couldn't fully grasp the meaning. But her tone and body language were clear enough. Her Bigfoot child was dying, and she trusted me, a complete stranger from another species, to try to save it. I knelt next to the couch and looked more closely at the little Bigfoot. From my years working at the veterinary clinic, I recognized the symptoms immediately. This was pneumonia, or something very similar, complicated by what appeared to be a secondary infection from its wounds. Without treatment, this little creature would die within hours. I rushed to the bathroom, gathering anything I could that might help. Leftover antibiotics from a dental infection I had a few months ago, a small fever reducer for Bigfoot that I had in my medical kit, clean towels, disinfectant, bandages. Not much, but it was better than nothing. The Bigfoot mother watched every move I made. Her eyes never left me. When I returned with the supplies and knelt beside the baby Bigfoot, she leaned forward slightly, as if trying to see everything I was doing, yet keeping her distance, allowing me to work. I started by cleaning the infected wounds with warm water and antiseptic. The little Bigfoot whimpered weakly, and the mother immediately made soft, comforting sounds. She didn't try to stop me, but I could see how heartbroken she was witnessing her child's pain. The wounds were deep and heavily infected, but they healed better than I expected. I applied antibiotic ointment and wrapped the wounds with clean bandages. Then came the harder part, giving the baby antibiotics and fever medication. The baby was too weak to swallow. I crushed half a pill of the antibiotic and mixed it with some water, making a thick paste to rub onto its gums. I did the same with the children's fever reducer. Not ideal, but it was better than nothing. Throughout the process, the Bigfoot mother remained still, observing. Occasionally, she made soft sounds that seemed to comfort her child, but she never interfered with what I was doing. The level of trust she displayed was incredible. Here was a Bigfoot mother allowing a stranger from another species to care for her dying child, based solely on desperation and hope. After doing everything I could think of, I sat back and looked at them both. The baby's breathing was still labored, its fever dangerously high, but it seemed a little more comfortable than when it first arrived. The Bigfoot mother looked at me with an expression I could only describe as gratitude, then sat down on the floor beside the couch, choosing a spot where she could gently place one of her enormous hands on her child. I brought over a blanket and spread it out for myself on the floor on the other side of the couch. It was going to be a long night, and I wanted to stay close enough to monitor the baby's condition. That first night, neither of us slept much. Every hour or so, I checked the baby's temperature by feeling its forehead, listening to its breathing, and rebandaging its wounds. The Bigfoot mother watched every action with intense focus, occasionally making soft sounds that I understood were asking how her child was doing. Around 3 a.m., the baby's breathing became more labored. I heard the crackling in its lungs, and the fever spiked again in a few terrifying minutes. I thought we were going to lose it. The Bigfoot mother heard the change too, and made painful sounds, reaching out for her child. I gave the baby another dose of medicine and used a warm, damp towel to help bring down the fever. The next hour could have gone either way, but gradually the baby's breathing eased and the temperature began to drop. By dawn, it was clear we had made it through the worst. The baby's breathing was still wheezy but stronger. The fever had passed, and the wounds looked less swollen and painful. When the first light of dawn peeked through the window, the baby even opened its eyes for a moment before sinking back into a deep sleep, nothing like the unconscious state it had been in from the fever. The Bigfoot mother looked at me with an expression I will never forget. If you've ever witnessed a parent realize their child will survive after thinking they might lose them, you'll understand that look. A mixture of relief, gratitude, and love filled her gaze. She reached out carefully and touched my hand with one of her massive fingers, the gentlest touch you could imagine. In the days that followed, we developed our own way of communicating. The Bigfoot mother would point to things she wanted to understand, and I would explain with gestures and the simplest words I could manage. She was incredibly intelligent, picking up patterns quickly and remembering everything I showed her. The Bigfoot mother learned how to help care for her child, holding it still while I changed bandages or gave it medicine. She watched me prepare food and medicine, clearly memorizing each step. It was like teaching a medical student, except my student was 2.4 meters tall and covered in fur. On the second day, I woke up to find fresh fish outside my door. The Bigfoot mother must have gone out sometime during the night and returned with food from the stream behind my house. All day long, she brought gifts, berries I had never seen before, roots with a medicinal scent, even honey from the wild. At first, I intended to decline, but the Bigfoot mother seemed genuinely upset when I didn't accept her offerings. I realized she needed to contribute something, to feel like she was giving, not just receiving help. So I gladly accepted everything, even tasting a few of the berries. They were delicious, sweeter than any wild fruit I had ever tried. By the third day, the little Bigfoot had made a remarkable recovery. Its breathing was almost normal, the fever had completely subsided, and the wounds were healing. More importantly, it had started reacting to its surroundings. When its mother made soft sounds, it would turn toward her voice. When I checked on it, it would follow my movements with its curious black eyes, clearly focused and alert. The mother's relief was unmistakable. She spent a lot of time just watching her child breathe normally, occasionally reaching out to gently caress its tiny hands or face. Occasionally, she would hum softly, a low, soothing sound that seemed to comfort both herself and the baby. On the fourth day, the little Bigfoot made its first healthy cry, a small sound in response to its mother's call. The mother's reaction was immediate and intense. She emitted joyful sounds and carefully lifted her child, holding it tightly to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Yes, tears. She cried with relief and happiness, just like any mother. Seeing her in that moment, I understood something profound about the bond between all mothers, no matter the species. Love is love. The desire to protect one's child is universal. That night, the little Bigfoot was strong enough to nurse. I stayed in the bedroom to give them privacy, but I could still hear the soft, satisfied sounds of the mother through the door. Later, when I stepped outside, the Bigfoot mother looked at me with genuine gratitude and gently took my hand. Her touch was incredibly light, though she was so strong. She brought my hand to her face and pressed it against her cheek as a gesture of thanks. By the end of the week, the little Bigfoot not only was healthy but had started to show its true personality. It reached for objects with its tiny hands, made sounds when the Bigfoot mother spoke to it, and even seemed to recognize me. When I approached the couch, it looked at me with curiosity rather than fear. The Bigfoot mother had learned enough of my routine to start helping me around the cabin. She would bring in firewood without being asked, fill the water jug from the well, and even began assisting with meal preparation. Her strength was incredible. She could carry loads that would take me multiple trips to manage, but she always moved carefully and gently, especially when near her child. I knew this couldn't last forever. As the little Bigfoot grew stronger and more active, I realized both of them truly belonged in the forest, not in my small cabin. The Bigfoot mother clearly struggled between her gratitude for the help and the natural instinct to return to her territory with her healthy child. By the 10th day, she made it clear it was time for them to leave. She carefully lifted her child and walked toward the door, pausing to look back at me. Her eyes said it all. "Thank you. Goodbye. I will never forget what you did for us." I opened the door for them and watched as she stepped outside into the morning light. The Bigfoot mother looked back once more, letting out a soft sound that seemed like a final farewell, then disappeared into the forest with her child. I stood at the door for a long time after they left, feeling an emptiness I hadn't expected. In those 10 days, my cabin had been filled with purpose and connection. Now it was too quiet, too empty. But something inside me had changed during those days. The weight of the despair and anger I had carried since the divorce had lifted. Taking care of the little Bigfoot and helping its mother had reminded me of the feeling of being needed for something good. It had given me a sense of purpose I thought I had lost forever. 3 weeks later, while chopping wood behind the cabin, I heard a familiar sound, soft footsteps, too heavy for a human, moving cautiously through the woods. I turned around and saw the Bigfoot mother approaching, holding something in her hands. She slowly came closer, stopping about 3 meters away and presenting her gift. It was a piece of wood intricately carved with patterns I had never seen before. Her craftsmanship was amazing. The swirling patterns seemed to represent the wind, water, and all the life that grew around us. It must have taken her hours to make. She carefully placed it on the tree between us, made a soft greeting sound I still remember, then stepped back. Before I could react, she turned and disappeared behind the trees. But I caught a glimpse of something moving behind her, a small, strong, vibrant figure, full of life. In the following weeks, I found more gifts. Smooth stones arranged in careful patterns near the door, bundles of herbs that I was starting to recognize. Once, a piece of honeycomb wrapped in leaves. She never came close directly again, but I knew she was still watching over me. As winter came and my time at the cabin was coming to an end, I realized those 10 days had changed me in ways I was still discovering. Caring for that little Bigfoot had reminded me of my own strength, my ability to help and heal. The trust the Bigfoot mother had placed in me restored some of the faith and connection that had been shattered by my divorce. I had come to the cabin to heal from betrayal and disappointment, to learn how to be alone without feeling lonely. But what I learned was something deeper about the relationships that truly matter. Not relationships based on promises and legal documents, but those based on need, compassion, and simple, essential love. My ex-husband had told me I was useless, that I had nothing to offer anyone. But a desperate Bigfoot mother from another species had entrusted me with the most precious thing in the world, and I proved I was worthy of that trust. I saved a life. I made a difference. When I finally left the cabin in early spring, I took one last walk through the woods where I first encountered them. I didn't see the large hawk mother or her chicks, but I did find one last gift, a small carving that resembled a family. 2 figures, one large and one small, standing side by side. I still keep it on my desk as a reminder of the 10 most important days of my life. Back in the everyday world, I never told anyone this story until now. Who would believe it? Sometimes I don't even believe it myself, but I have the carvings and the memories. And I know that somewhere in those ancient forests, the little Bigfoot I helped save is growing up healthy. I went back to work at a veterinary clinic, using the skills that saved that baby. I work better now, even better than before. Using those skills to save a life most people would have thought impossible has given me a new belief in my abilities. I still live alone, but now it's a choice, not a retreat. I understand my own worth in a way I never did before. I know that I am capable of doing extraordinary things when it truly matters. I know that love and trust can bridge any gap, even between species. Sometimes, late at night, I think of them and wonder how they're doing. Has the little Bigfoot learned to speak, to walk, to explore the world? Has the Bigfoot mother ever told it about the strange woman who saved its life? Do they remember me as I remember them? What I learned in those 10 days is something I always think about. Now, every day, I live with the knowledge that love is everywhere, in every species, in every heart. A mother's love for her child is the greatest force in the universe. Strong enough to make her trust a stranger, strong enough to bridge worlds. I came to that cabin broken, shattered by betrayal, believing that connections were just lies people tell themselves. But seeing the Bigfoot mother care for her child, feeling her trust in me, and experiencing the purpose of helping them, it healed a wound in me I didn't even realize was there. Sometimes people ask why I look so different now, more confident, more at peace with myself. I tell them that spending time alone in the woods taught me a lot about who I really am. That's true, but the truth is that caring for an invincible Bigfoot baby and earning the trust of an invincible Bigfoot mother taught me everything I needed to know about what matters in life. I still keep all the gifts they gave me, the carvings, the stones, even some dried herbs. But the true gift was the experience itself. I now know that I am capable of extraordinary things when it truly matters. The divorce had left me feeling worthless, as if I had nothing to offer anyone. But when a desperate Bigfoot mother needed help, when the life of her child hung by a thread, I was exactly what they needed. My skills, my compassion, and my willingness to help. These things matter more than any legal document or empty promise. Sometimes, I think about this while treating animals at the clinic. The trust a pet owner places in me when they bring in their sick companions is the same trust the Bigfoot mother gave me that night. It's a sacred kind of trust, the kind that comes when someone entrusts you with what they love most and asks for your help. Even now, many years later, I sometimes think I catch a glimpse of them in the woods when I'm hiking. A fleeting movement from a distance, too large to be a human, too purposeful to be a bear. I've never gotten close enough to be sure, but something tells me they're still out there, still watching, still remembering. Sometimes, I leave small gifts of my own at the edge of the forest. I think medical supplies might be useful. Easily transportable food, books on herbs with illustrations they might understand. I don't know if they ever found these things, but somehow it makes me feel connected to them. The little Bigfoot is probably grown now, perhaps even has children of its own. I wonder if it remembers the early days when a stranger saved its life. I wonder if it knows that those 10 days saved me, in ways harder to measure but no less real. I know I will probably never see them again. Our worlds intersected only for a brief moment, long enough to save a life and heal a heart, then part again. But the impact of that intersection continues to spread through my life in ways I'm still discovering. I am no longer the person who came to that cabin broken, angry, and believing that connection was a lie people told themselves. I am someone who understands that love transcends everything, species, language, understanding. I am someone who proved to myself that I can overcome an impossible challenge and succeed beyond the wildest dreams. Most people will never have an experience like mine. Most people will never hold an infant Bigfoot, an impossibility, and watch it fight to recover. Most people will never earn the trust of a creature that science says doesn't exist, but perhaps they don't need to. Just knowing that such things are possible is enough. Because if a broken human and a desperate Bigfoot mother from another species can find common ground in the simple desire to save a life, then there is hope for all of us. There is hope that love is truly stronger than fear, that trust can indeed bridge any distance, that we are truly connected in ways we don't yet understand. That was the gift they gave me, the Bigfoot mother and her child. Not just the knowledge that I can face an extraordinary challenge, but the certainty that such challenges exist, that there is still magic in this world, that love can truly create miracles. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind rustles through the trees, I swear I hear soft sounds from afar. The mother's voice, the child's laughter, the sound of a family alive, healthy, and whole. Because sometimes, when it's truly needed, strangers become family, and the impossible becomes possible. I will carry that knowledge with me for the rest of my life. A secret that is also a promise. That when love calls, we will answer. When help is needed, we will help. When trust is given, we will prove ourselves worthy. And sometimes, just sometimes, 10 days can change everything.